to call the regular monthly meeting of the Salem Board of Education to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before we get started, I would like to welcome our new student board member, Alexis Marquis. So we're very excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome, Lexis. Can we have Lexis just...
Absolutely. Would you like to tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So originally I was from Massachusetts. I was born there, and I lived there all the way up until 6th grade, and then I moved here in 7th grade, and I've been going here ever since, and I'm a painter, so I'm an art student, and I want to be an art therapist when I'm older. And I thought it was really important to be on the Board of Education because I want to be the voice for students, and I want to make sure that the students feel connected with board members and staff.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you
Welcome.
for joining us.
And I'm also going to help Lexis tutor Horn because she also participates in, and I probably won't remember them all, but mock trial, correct? And drama club. She's very involved in drama club, as well as she works at Lunch, Learn, and Play, and has volunteered her time to teach art classes over at the courthouse. She's very well-rounded. What else did I forget? Other things?
I volunteered at the food pantry before. I am a part of the weightlifting club, if that matters. I'm a part of film club and yearbook. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right,
Well-rounded.
excellent. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to open the meeting for public comment, if anyone has anything to share with the board.
I'll start. Amy Maxwell. I'm a teacher and a parent in the district, and tonight is Board of Education Appreciation Night, and we just want to say from Wasia and WADA, thank you for your time and your service to the school, to our community, and to our students.
Please stand
Good
and state
evening.
your name.
My name is Bill Keefe. I'm a Salem resident taxpayer. And I had a couple questions for the board, for the administration, on the closing up of the arch. And I want to know if the deal has been signed to go ahead and close the arch up. I did review the information that you put on the website, and when I got down all the way to the bottom, priority number 1 is close up the arch. Priority number 2 is take care of the roof. Now I understand by looking at some of the information on there, that some of the roofs are 20, 22, 25 years old. And I find it kind of strange that the board would put closing the arch up, which the settlers and the Indians, they didn't have any problems on it when they were dropping their kids off to school here, over keeping the building secure, safe. Nobody wants water damage. I'm sure that anybody on the board, because their house was, their paint was off a little bit, but their roof was leaking, wouldn't go ahead and say, geez, I think I'll paint the house. Doesn't matter what it looks like on the inside. Well, that being said, there has not been one person, I've talked to bus drivers, I've talked to community members, that think that closing the arch up is a good idea. But if the board decides to do so, I had an idea, after looking at the plans of what is proposed, it won't cost the district a nickel. Get with your bus drivers, get with all the people that drop off their kids, that pick up their kids. You're only going to have one roadway, into the school and out of the school. Pick a week, pick 2 weeks, hopefully with nice weather, and try out your proposition. It's how you think this is going to work. Because looking at it on paper, I think that you're going to have some issues with it. First of all, it's great when the school buses are coming in, dropping the kids off. First of all, they're going to have to walk farther. So the walks are gonna have to be cleaned, salted, sanded, you're gonna have more people slipping and sliding. Versus in the arch, boom, they're in either building, pretty close, they're in by the gym, they get in, they don't drag in a lot of stuff. So, that being said, I just would like you to consider, without spending any money, let everybody in the community know. I mean, I haven't seen any of this in the papers or anything, I haven't seen any. There was just an article in Free Press. Somebody's going to redo the hotel in Salem, but they're not putting up Taj Mahal. They're gonna redo it to the 1930s. The arch is what made Salem. The arch is part of the historic community in Salem. We want to be a historic village. And I think the facade there that you're going to put in front of the doorways, I mean, makes this thing look ridiculous. But it's the board's choice. I did call the state, New York State Education Division. They don't deal with taxpayers, they don't deal with regular people, they only deal with legal counsel, only deals with board members, school teachers, or school personnel, which I am not one. I haven't been able to look at the original proposition, and I believe this is the first time in Salem's history, and I may be wrong, I mean, because the records are all here, this building project, which was estimated at $20.3 million, approved by the voters for $20.3 million. I don't know how you can hire a contractor to overestimate something that he's doing, and now we're gonna go around and get some, we had money left over. When the track was put in, we had a bond issue on that. Apparently, when that was all done, according to the superintendent that was here, there was overruns of $100 and some thousand. They never got paid. I don't know about any of the other roof projects that have been approved in Salem, and I just want to know if this is the way that we're going to continue our bond proposals, have somebody come in, give us a high number, get the community to approve it, we get extra money, and then you guys can pick and choose whatever you want to do. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time, I know you got a lot to do tonight, but I would at least like you to consider, try it. Doesn't cost you a nickel, not one nickel. Just got to let the community members know that, hey, get some concrete blocks, take a bus, turn it on its side so nobody can drive through the arch. And they won't, of course, it looks like in the prints that that's going to be closed off, no one will be able to come in or go out, right? It's just a pass-through. Is that correct? Or are there doors? And if you enclose the arch, is there going to be doors to get out into the parking lot? Okay. There is? Okay.
Well, for traffic or for pedestrians?
No, for pedestrians.
Yes.
You're going to have students going between
Pedestrians,
buildings.
yes, for pedestrians, but not for.
No vehicle, I
Right,
know.
well, last time when there was discussion about possibly having doors that rolled up to let traffic go through, so I wasn't sure.
No,
Okay.
but I don't know who you guys are talking to that says that's a good idea. Because we're not putting in bulletproof glass. I mean, you say you want to do it for security. We're not putting in bulletproof glass, we're not putting fences up, we're not putting in magnetometers. We're not hiring, we don't have sheriffs. I know that there's some that got fired down in Texas, probably looking for a job, although I wouldn't hire them. But, so you people have a good night. I'll keep my eyes and ears to the ground. If I find anybody that says, yeah, that's a great idea. I've talked to, like I said, I've talked to bus drivers, I've talked to community members. I think there's better usage of that $4.1 million. Keep the building secure, safe for the next 20, 25 years. They're advertising roofs on TV now, good for 50 years. I'm sure it's not a flat roof, but, and your contractor can tell you what the life expectancy is. Otherwise, you're gonna do that, spend the money, be back here. I know you said there's some time on some of the roofs, but we'll be back, another bond proposal to get the taxpayers to pay for roofs, which are gonna need to be done regardless. So you have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mrs. Adams, the superintendent's report.
All right, good evening. So as Mrs. Maxwell mentioned, this is school board recognition.
You have more community members who still want to
Oh,
speak.
yes, I apologize.
Sorry, I didn't see any of them, I apologize.
That's okay. Sorry.
Okay,
Please,
go ahead.
please, Mrs. Thetford.
Yeah.
If you
I
want,
didn't see you behind Frank.
would you mind stepping up and we'll turn on the microphone so that,
Thanks.
the viewers will be able to hear you on the recording.
Yeah, this is not gonna be awkward at all.
Mr. Fraunhofer, will you just press it on and it should turn green? That's okay. We'll share.
So I just wanted to kind of get the board up to speed with what's been going on with the breast cancer fundraiser that we've been doing. Wada and the C got together and we started out with the Real Kids Wear Pink campaign from the American Cancer Society. It's something that I was interested in years ago and COVID hit and nothing could ever really, so I just never brought it to light, and this year I went to Julie and we got the approval to go forward. So we started out with purchasing the pink plastic flamingos that you guys see. And we decided to do that as a donation, a $10 donation. We'll get you a purple ribbon, which you can put a memorial to or in honor of whoever you want to, your loved one's name on the purple ribbon, and then we put that out on the lawn. So right now, our total, we've sold 70 of them out of the 100. We also did a campaign with t-shirts because Friday is National Real Kids Wear Pink Day. So we had t-shirts made up and we sold, I believe, about 115 of these. And we did bracelets and we did an M&M raffle. And those have been going really, really well. But I really think the thing that has moved me the most out of doing this whole thing has been how it's really morphed into a huge community effort. I've had outside community donations, I've had people emailing me and texting me wanting to know how they can get involved. The biggest achievement for me was getting the 1211 room involved, and they have been spectacular. Erin has been like completely on board with this whole thing. She's got her kiddos taking phone calls and delivering bracelets, and it's just so, like, this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted to see for this program. These kids are so into it, and it kind of, all on its own, went in line with the curriculum that Erin was starting to teach. Her next step is phone skills in that class, and how to take a phone call, how to order pizza, how to, all that kind of stuff. So these kids, we have teachers around the building calling up Erin's room saying, hey, we need an order of 12 bracelets. And they take down the order, they go down, they deliver the bracelets. It's so much fun to see. And like, Holly's getting really into it. She wears this flamingo hat, and it's just been really good. So I just this is something you guys don't typically see. And I just wanted to let you know that, like, that's the best thing that's come out of it. Regardless, the donations and everything have been great, but that's the part that I really have enjoyed watching, is watching that 1211, those kiddos blossom and go out there and do their thing and interact and learn how to make change and learn how to, respectfully answer a phone and all those skills that they need, and they're doing it. And so I just wanted to let you know that it's been great and wonderfully heartwarming to watch this. So, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you for sharing that.
I just wanted to add that, so I would want to thank Amy for getting us all together, and it's been a big team effort, and so we really appreciate Wada and Wasia making the donations for the flamingos, and I have big dreams for this. You know, we talked about it as each year, maybe adding on, and in the springtime planning for this, so that, but I kind of hope it might be like the South High Marathon, and like in a couple of years, we have that whole entire, that is a big front lawn, tricked out with flamingos, you know? Like, to me, it's having a picture every year and seeing every year how many more flamingos, and really having that be our thing, so thank you very much, we appreciate that.
Can we get a picture of Holly with the flamingo hat? Because
Oh,
I'd really like to
that's
see that.
happening.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
And we are really, we're wearing pink on,
Friday.
we're wearing pink on Thursday. It's
Friday.
being- we're being- oh, Friday,
Yes,
sorry,
Friday.
tomorrow's Thursday. But, and we're talking it up, and, you know, again, hopefully maybe over time it'll be a full community effort, so, thank you.
Sorry about that, Amy. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? I apologize.
We have two sides of the room. All right. So, again, back to the School Board Recognition Week. This is an important week. It is it's important to recognize. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain. This is where, our school board helps make the magic happen here. And we appreciate your support of our students and our community, and we look forward to continuing our forward progress. I would like to just take a moment to read the proclamation from Governor Hochul. Whereas each year, School Board Recognition Week is observed by more than 700 school boards and school districts throughout New York State, and whereas our state's public education system is designed to meet the educational needs of all children and to empower them to become informed, productive contributors to society in an ever-changing world, and whereas as we continue to come back from the COVID-19 pandemic, school boards have worked with school administrators and educators to help them navigate students' full return to the classroom within a learning environment that is safe, healthy, and ensures optimum opportunities for intellectual and personal growth. And whereas members of local school boards are dedicated to children, learning, and community, and devote many hours of service to elementary and secondary public education as they continually strive for improvement, excellence, and progress in education, recognizing that all children can be successful learners. And whereas local school board members are strong advocates for public education and are responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectations to the district by working closely with parents, educational professionals, and other community members. And whereas the members of New York State's local school boards respond to the educational needs of the communities they serve and help ensure the solid foundation of our school system. In doing so, these leaders help strengthen our state's educational system and improve future prospects for our children. And whereas during October 17th through 21st, 2022, special activities and programs will be held in communities across New York State in observance of School Board Recognition Week, and it is fitting to join in acknowledging the commitment and contributions of members of local school boards. Now, therefore, I, Kathy Hochul, Governor of the State of New York, do hereby proclaim October 17th through 21st, 2022 as School Board Recognition Week in the Empire State. So thank you again for your time and commitment to our students. Okay, I left my sheet somewhere. I lost it in my pile, so I'm just gonna read my list off my phone just so I don't forget anything. So first of all, we have recently come upon an opportunity in New York State to consider including girls wrestling in Section 2, in particular in our section, and I believe across the state. And so we have Coach Frank Fraunhofer here to talk a little bit about this opportunity and to ask the board for support in the girls wrestling program. And I see both coaches Fraunhofer are here, so welcome.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you, board, for volunteering your time. We appreciate it, not just this week, but all weeks. And thank you, Mrs. Adams, for making this recommendation on short notice. So New York State approved girls wrestling as an emerging sport in August. And I wasn't sure how much traction it had in Section 2. And then about 3 weeks ago, I went to a meeting for girls wrestling. And at that time, there were 8 schools in Section 2 that had committed to making a program. We did a quick survey of students in 9 through 12. And at that point, we had 5 girls who said yes, they wanted to be part of it. Since then, we have a 5th, no, that was 5. We have a 6th and a 7th girl who now have also come to me and told me they plan to wrestle. So in the meantime, a couple other schools have approved it in Section 2. So I was hoping to be the first team in our area, but Whitehall board approved it on Monday. Another school just joined in the Albany area. So now I think there are 10 schools, and if you guys approve it tonight, we'll be up to 11 schools, which is actually good for having opportunities to actually wrestle. So I have a schedule of 9 events that the girls will participate in, and Mr. Moore scheduled 1 home event on Tuesday, where we would invite a number of other teams here so they can get enough matches. I don't think we'll have enough girls to have an actual dual meet, where we have 13, and another school has 13 like you would typically, but you will be able to set up matches that are best for individuals. So that is the plan, if you guys approve it. Eventually, I would like to be merged with Cambridge, but the paperwork has to be done by August 1st, which was before this started rolling. So what would happen, my intention for this year, is the Cambridge board is going to consider this on their early November meeting, and their plan is, if it's approved, is to have us be the coaches, even though we're not actually merged this year. So our girls would be able to work out together, be able to go to events together, but we can't have a team score together called Salem Cambridge. For future years, when we have more time to actually set it up, then I would hope that we would have a boys and girls merged wrestling team and a girls merged wrestling. I might have said that wrong. There are not as many girls currently in Cambridge who are saying that they're going to, but there are a couple. Possibly, I imagine we'd have 10 kids, 10 girls wrestling in the room. Practices, our intention is to hold them at the same exact time. I think for this first year, the numbers are small. So I did a little research, and like you can have a boys soccer team and a girls soccer team practice on the field at the same time, but the boys and girls should never scrimmage each other, even though that's sometimes broken in some schools. We will not let that happen just because of liability reasons. So we will coach our boys and our girls at the same time, but they will never, and I think that's the appeal for, so girls have been allowed to wrestle for years, but you had to wrestle boys. And there's certain weight classes where that's just not feasible, especially you get over about 120 pounds, and most girls aren't physically strong enough. So this offers an opportunity for a sport that I love, that I think helps with conditioning and confidence and lots of positive attributes. That Salem currently has 1 option for girls in the winter technically, and this would be 2 options if you approve it. We, Ms. Adams has put on the board that the wrestling coaches, all 4 of us, would volunteer coach this year. It is something that we didn't think we could figure out on such short notice, and I want to get the program started. I don't necessarily have to be the coach in the future. Eventually we have to talk about coaches and how it all works, but I think it's important to get to kind of strike while there's some momentum, get a team going, and then go forward. I think I covered everything I wanted to say. Does anyone have a question they want to ask?
Could you just add, so New York is a little behind the times, correct, in terms of,
there's-
how many other states?
We're over 30 states. I'm not sure if it's 34 states that already have girls wrestling. And New York was kind of slow, just kind of unusual in the sport that's picking this up. But it does seem to really have a sense of momentum. And the college wrestling scene also, the number of Division I and Division III schools that are starting women's wrestling right now is probably the fastest growing sport in the country. We'll see what happens to our numbers.
Just one quick question. In the interest of transparency, my brother-in-law coaches the girls' basketball team.
Yep.
That will have no impact on my decision to this. What impact will it have on the other girls' sport?
I can't tell you it's not gonna have an impact. I think currently it won't. You know, so of the girls who said they are going to wrestle, I think one, has played basketball, but not someone who, was I don't wanna say, she wasn't one of the stars of the basketball. So I think, over time, there is a small overlap between basketball and wrestling. I mean, Coach Perry would have recruited everybody to play basketball, but everybody doesn't necessarily fit as
Understood.
basketball. I think, yeah, I think the chance that there is some athlete that we're both fighting for is possible. But I think it's an opportunity.
I would just like to add to that, I know we've had several discussions about athletics since I've been here, over the past 4 years. And I think we recognize, due to our, enrollment as a whole, that there are challenges, and we've seen that, and certainly we, really value that Salem tradition of having our teams, but I know a lot of times we've had the conversations about the value of merging, because we wanna provide opportunities. Right now, I think this is an exciting opportunity for the girls. I think we've, really committed as a district over the past, several years to really, look at equity and opportunities for all students, and I think there's some people still think girls wrestling is not very traditional, but I think it's very exciting that we recognize that this is a possibility for students, so, I think, I have no doubt that Coach Perry is an excellent recruiter, and, I think we'll work through that, and I know, really, as we said, there were quite a few girls that probably would have not played basketball, and
I think that,
not interested in wrestling boys, but now have this opportunity.
I think 6 of the 8 who told me they are planning on wrestling, are not basketball players at all, or ever. Others, are somewhere in between. Any other questions?
No, in the past, the girls have been able to go on the boys' team. Is
Correct.
that still an option,
It
or is it just gonna be?
It is still allowed, currently. I'm not sure what's eventually gonna happen. Where it will matter is once there's an official, New York State, championships, and then at some point you need to decide, are you a girls wrestler, or are you a girl wrestler on a mixed boys team? And that kind of, are you on the path to go to the boys' state tournament or the girls' state tournament? Probably for the next 2 years, it's probably a little bit, fuzzy, and you probably could do both. We probably will have some girls who just go to girls' tournaments, and other schools might have some that do mixed competition. We actually have one potential Cambridge girl who, if she wrestles for us, might do mixed competition, and then also wrestle with our girls.
She has already started a mixed competition.
She's wrestled in the competition
Yes,
before.
so that.
Previous years, she might continue to do it. I don't know if she's gonna wrestle. Any other questions?
I have 2, I think, sort of.
Okay.
So this is just 9 through 12. We're not talking anything other than 9 through 12 at this point? Or,
What we're asking you to approve is girls wrestling, and then we are going to figure out whether 7.
so you said survey for 9 through 12,
We
so that's
see-
why
we
I,
started-
okay,
we
so that's
started-
why
we
I
started
wasn't
there.
sure.
The
Okay.
next, so excellent question. So the next step would be to figure out, are there 7th and 8th grade girls who have never wrestled that we don't really know about, who want to wrestle? And there's gonna be 2 options. One, if it was big enough, we might try to figure out how to do it. Or you could test them up to wrestle on the varsity team. Any 7th and 8th grader could test up, so that's a possibility. I know of one 7th grade girl who would like to wrestle, and we probably are going to test her to see if she can follow her varsity. She's already kind of talking to me.
And I know one, but it might be the same person, but, because I told her to talk to you, but I don't know if it is or not, but,
Right,
so it could be 2.
So my next question is I know it's separate teams, but are the meets going to be, like, Whitehall already approved it, so would you guys go to Whitehall as boys and girls to have a boys and a girls meet at the same time, or?
So I think for this year, Whitehall's coming here,
Okay,
and we won't be able to have a full girls dual meet, because it's not gonna work, but I think it's gonna work similar to how it might work for modified. So if they have 6 modified and we have 6 modified, we see which kids are the right abilities and weights, and we try to wrestle a match. So
Okay.
if you approve it, I have a schedule that I'm going to publish for the girls, and Whitehall is on there. Because I know Whitehall has a girls' team, and it's home in our gym, so there's a chance that we probably will know ahead of time, does Whitehall have people our size? And if so, there will be girls' matches, and then there'll be a varsity boys match.
Okay, and so then this leads me to the third question, I'm sorry.
That's good. That's good.
But so is Whitehall the only one that is like sort of closed? Is everybody else like, is it gonna be, our kids are on a bus for 3 hours to get to a
Not 3 hours,
tournament?
but we're gonna template, we can often go towards Albany.
Okay,
So the Tamarack has a girls team already, and they actually come to us also. We might wrestle them. The tournaments that we plan to go to, the farthest one is Ravenna.
okay.
Then there is one in the Colony area. Maybe there's 3. I can't remember.
Okay.
On the schedule we have New York State is putting on a girls tournament at the end of the year, like a mock state tournament, and that's in Syracuse. And if there are girls who feel that they would like to and are ready, we might go to that also. But, so our boys typically travel to about Albany, Russell, from many tournaments. That's a common distance.
Okay, thank you.
I just commend you for putting this together in 2 months, like,
So we for next year there will be other considerations like coaching and how we're gonna work that out. But for now, I would like to get it started. So thank you for considering it when it comes to that part of your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alexis, have you heard any just talk about it, at school or?
I have had a girl come up to me and say that she thinks it's a good idea. And I also think it's a good idea because 1, women empowerment, we love it. And 2, like Mr. Franz said, I think it's important to have not only like more women's sports, but make it fair for girls because like a lot of guys are biologically bigger than girls, so sometimes it's a little gray area. So I think it's really good to give girls this opportunity so they can fully compete and fully be involved.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, coaches. I just have a few other updates. So I'm working on healthcare worker bonuses. The portal's open. It was a little bit of a challenge. It's a Department of Health portal, so it's not what we're used to as educators. So I was just at a separate meeting today, but we were on the side talking about how to navigate the system. And what I'll do next time is kind of give you a list of a little more information. We've done some work in our region along with our school attorneys, and we've kind of narrowed down the eligible workers for our district. So it's really based on healthcare titles, so having to translate that, but we have gotten direction, and it's really titles that you would see that would cross over into the healthcare setting. So, and I may miss one, so this isn't all inclusive right now, and so we'll reach out to the list that qualify, but similar to nurse, social worker, speech therapist, psychologist, OT, PT providers, so really those traditional roles where there was a high need across the state, and certainly we appreciate that these faculty members decided to stay here instead of go other places where there was a high need and or possibly other opportunities, and so we appreciate that. We have an opportunity to participate, and how it works is, it sounds like they must be doing it in phases. My son is a paramedic and he received his payout a couple weeks ago, so our portal for the educators is open for October, but at the end of October we have to have our list in, and then what happens is they pay us, they kind of give us, they send us the funds, and then we would distribute them. Okay, so that's generally where we are, so I'm not sure on the timeline of that. Hopefully we'll learn more about the timeline, but our list will have to be in by the end of October. So I will tell you that we have been receiving some feedback about our website, our calendar. There have been some errors, and we apologize for that. recently on some of the events, and so I will be working with our communication specialist, and Mrs. Eastman sometimes will assist and work with a communication specialist as well. So the three of us will be looking at that and kind of where we kind of maybe fell off a little bit, and what we need to do to make sure that we're putting the right information out there. So my apologies to those who were inconvenienced by the errors. Our elementary school counselor position, we've just recently have been in the process of reposting that. Wanted to give it a little time. I have heard of one or two candidates. We've been reaching out, the administrators on our listservs, and we have received a couple possibilities, so that we're hoping that they'll apply in this round at OLS, and if not, I think what I'd like to do is talk about an interim. We are having a high need right now of really student support, and we are very fortunate to have a substitute who has a social work background that has been substituted and filling in. So even though that person's not able to completely fill the school counselor role, is be able to be there and support and be an additional member of the school support team and respond for crisis intervention and those types of services for our students. Has been visiting classrooms. We right now have temporarily removed the REACH program. So REACH program was a program where the elementary counselor was scheduled in the elementary classroom, each elementary classroom, to meet them once a week. I'm not sure the rationale for that. That's a little unusual to be scheduled in as a special, as part of a guidance plan. We are required to have push it in some classroom instruction and support, but there are some different models to do that. And we have had some need, number one, for responding to students in crisis and in need, where then that counselor, the person who's filling in, is tied to a classroom and not there to assist. Sometimes we'll have multiple kids at the same time, as well as the person is a substitute, not fully, committed to the regular schedule. Additionally, just with some of the transitions in administration and elementary, it was scheduled to add additional planning time to the teacher's day, so we're able to pick up some additional instructional time in the classroom. And so I think once we get a permanent person in the role, we may look at, do we go back to that REACH model where it's scheduled, or do we look at changing that model somewhat where maybe they schedule times in different grade levels that are more flexible, but the benefit to that is that the classroom teacher is also part of those SEL lessons and supports, can possibly tie them into ELA class with maybe some literature that they're reading, or tie them in other ways, and then that classroom teacher can carry on, whereas right now it's in lieu of the classroom teacher, it's a separate instruction. So I think as we're transitioning the school counselor, and there might be a few more months until we get someone in there, realistically, if someone works in another school, they might have to give a month or so of notice. So we just felt at this time it was too inconsistent for the students as well as the teachers, really to plan daily basis. So we did restructure the schedule somewhat, just to be able to make sure that all the students had supervision and the necessary instruction they needed through the day. So you may have heard or hear about that, but that is the rationale behind it. And so budget calendar. So on our timeline for the meeting timeline for the year, it is on the timeline to present the budget calendar to the board in October. However, with Mrs. McGregor being on vacation and, we're kind of looking at making a couple slight changes to that. We thought it would be better to present it, in November, so we'll get that out to you ahead of time so you could take a look at it, but if there are questions, so there's questions that, that are the timeline, I can speak to more the operational side of the timeline, but she could speak more to the financial side, so I felt that it would be better if to present that in November, so you will have that in November. And, the last thing is something to consider for an agenda item at some point, maybe in November, December, is, I've been approached, by the sheriff's office, about, we are one of, I think there might be only one other school in the region, possibly Fort Edward, but they have a local village PD, to not have, an SRO. And, I'm wondering if the board would be interested in a presentation by the sheriff's office. They did send me some initial information. I haven't had an opportunity to look at it in terms of their sample contract, and the cost, but to be honest, I haven't looked at it. But, I think this would be an appropriate time to consider it while we're in the budget phase. Because oftentimes the timing isn't right, and you say, oh, that sounds great, but we can't do it. And I think it's something that we were talking a bit about safety, but one of the things is the school resource officer, and we can talk about this a little more if we do have a presentation, is much more than just a person for security with a person with a gun walking around the school. So they call it, there's a triad. And there's a lot of elements of obviously community relations and social emotional supports. They go into the classroom and instruct and really interact and become a part of the school community. So again, there is that benefit of having a quick response time because you have someone here in the district, but also, really we get a lot of other benefits from that. Again, I'm not honestly sure what the cost is, and it may be something that is cost effective, or it might be cost prohibitive. But the last thing I wanted to share related to that is our superintendent group in Washington County is just had a meeting with the county attorney, the commissioner of social services, and the person who works for her in the alternative sentencing program, who's in charge of PINS and PINS diversion, and we talked a lot about some of the concerns that we have around attendance. And if you're not familiar, chronic absenteeism is becoming a bigger and bigger part of school accountability. I will tell you, so we'll be presenting our academic information, and at some point when that is put together, we'll put together our attendance information. We anticipate, so last year's considered baseline year, we anticipate most likely it was still an accountability year federally. Chronic absenteeism is a federal accountability. We anticipate that we're close to being a target school for that. I am working, Michelle Crandall, our director of PPS, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to really include the entire school support umbrella under her, including the school counselors, which not every school district does, but so we can really maximize the work of our school counseling staff. But I think there has also been a lot of value and benefit. So there are some roundtables that occur not only among superintendents and administrators about school attendance, and there is a lot of positive connections to an SRO and how they can help us. The bottom line is they have a great framework for a pre-PINS diversion, so person in need of supervision, that is through social services, CPS, educational neglect. It is very difficult to make any progress. They are short-staffed. Last year they had 3 schools that they piloted the pre-PINS diversion, and a lot of it was around the majority of it was around absenteeism and truancy, which then leads to other behavior and obviously community issues. And they had to cut it off because in those 3 schools, they had 70 referrals in 3 schools. And so they had to stop in the middle of the year taking referrals. And so the bottom line is for us to improve our attendance, we will still take the route of pins or educational neglect, but we really wanna be partners and we really wanna look at how we can work on this in our own community. And so I think this is a way to possibly, add another component and more of a community component. A lot of times, it's someone who lives, if not in the community, they try to have someone who lives close to your community, is familiar. Most of the SROs have been retired law enforcement that they then are sponsored and under the supervision, so they're sheriff's deputies. So that was a little long-winded, but just a little thought process of why I think it's something that we might want to at least listen to.
Yeah, I think the presentation would be great.
Okay. All right, I'll look at either November or December, maybe December. I'll see what timeline they were
We're the
thinking.
only school in Washington that doesn't have one?
I think Fort Edward is the only other one, right? That's what they told me.
Interesting, okay, thank you.
A few have just added in recently over the past year. So, we do have the benefit, I will say, of, they have, I'm not sure if anybody knows Frank Barboza, he's a community member and, lives in Shushan now. And, he was a retired state trooper, works for the sheriff's office part-time, and, he substitutes. So if the school resource officer in Hudson Falls is gonna be out for 2 days for some reason, then he'll go in and fill in for the 2 days. But when he's not filling in or doing some other work, for the sheriff's office, he'll come into our school or the other school that doesn't, and so he isn't able to fill the full role of an SRO, but he'll come in, he is a native Spanish speaker, so he spends time, sometimes he'll come into Mr. Fraunhofer's room and converse with the students, and I think they've really enjoyed interacting with him, and it's a great connection. I mean, it would be my dream to have a Spanish-speaking SRO. We really need that in our community right now, so, but I just, so they are providing us with a service, but it's not a consistent service, it's once or twice a month. So, that is, it for me. Any questions?
So let's move on to our action items. Does anybody have anything they would like removed from the consent agenda? Okay. Entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
I'll take the next.
Got it. We'll go back and forth all night.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes 3-0. All right, committee reports. Peter, you guys, did you get to meet for curriculum?
Very briefly, we have found 4 policies that we're reviewing related to curriculum. Unfortunately, Dan's wife had a child had an issue, and he got called up because his wife developed an issue at the same time. We are planning on more thoroughly going over those 4 policies, and both of us are gonna make modifications, changes, and bounce those out for each other at our next meeting, and hopefully have something at the next.
All
Do you know
right.
when your next curriculum meeting is gonna be?
I do, but I'd have to look it up.
I
So-
don't think we scheduled ours.
We didn't.
Right, so normally, we're the second, the curriculum and policy is the second Monday.
Correct, yeah.
So that would be November 14th, if
Right, that's right,
that
and
works.
we're at 5 o'clock.
Curriculum at 5 and policy at 6.
Andrea,
The 7th.
the 7. Okay.
And we can change that if we need to.
If that doesn't work for,
What did we say? I'm sorry, the
Seventh, if
Does
not,
6 o'clock work that night, or do you wanna do earlier?
That works, 6 works.
I mean, I can do 5, cause there's no football to be over. There'll be a lull between football and wrestling, so if we need to do 5.
If either one is fine with me.
Okay, so we'll talk.
I don't have anything on my calendar.
We'll talk to
on that
Mrs.
day, so-
McGregor, maybe Mrs. McGregor when she returns
Okay.
and figure that out. So the finance committee did meet and we talked, about some updates in our, reserve accounts and also some updates in the building project information. So you'll see a little bit later in the agenda, we're gonna be approving some, moves from our reserves. Yeah, there was a lot of, sorry, I need to shuffle the paper in this one. Here it is, reserve. So we're gonna be doing some moving of some funds to, fully, fund different accounts. Workers' compensation reserve will be moving, money into that. Right now, there's currently $93,000 there, and we will move it to fully fund it at $310,500. Reserve teacher retirement account will be moving from 20,000 up to 73,000. And our capital reserve, which we voted on, will now be fully funded. Fully funded, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it'll be a 1.5
$1.5
million.
Yep. So that will be nice to have, and then our reserve repairs will move from 300,000 up to 640,000 for small repairs and projects. And then we talked a little bit more about phase 2, the way that the,
Financial advisor.
yes, the way we talked with our financial advisor, and we have more, closer to, $4.1 million versus what we thought was 5.3. So we need to, take a look back at our drawings and thoughts for the phase 2 and figure out what it is that we need to do. We're gonna have a conversation with Mosaic about possibly seeing if we can get closer on some numbers on some things, or possibly taking out different things and items. So we will look to discuss and approve in the November meeting to move forward with what we decide.
at this point, so I did give you an additional packet, just in case you didn't bring yours from last time. So remember, we regrouped, in terms of the, category, I would say. So we regrouped our categories. So on that first page was really our initial list that we had talked about, the safety, security, and accessibility items. So as you can see, the total, and, you know, this is important, I know, that in our public comment, there was a discussion about, well, why, that we underspent. But as you can see, we build in the 3%, we build in contingencies and incidentals, so, and we build in for some, you know, in terms of escalation, in terms of increased costs that we're uncertain about. So all of those are factors which cause us to possibly come in a little bit below those numbers, but those are, conservative numbers just in case. We're at 4.6 million, so we need to shave that down about 500,000. You know, there's a couple possibilities. I think, you know, one of the things is the paving behind the primary building, that's about 280,000. Now, they did say that they weren't sure we would really need to use that. It kind of just depends on where things fell with paving the other parts of the lot and the costs at the time. I still feel pretty strongly that we do need, I think it might seem like something we should cut out, but I do feel strongly that we could use the additional parking. And so I think, we're really gonna have to weigh that with some other possibilities. I would like to talk to Mosaic, about, is there a way that, for example, right now, what looks like probably might have to go is the relocation of the high school office, which we talked about is you know, a big safety upgrade, to have that at the door, have that double entry, having the window there, but that is, if you look at that, that probably, so that's 391,000, those are the last two items on the bottom, and then having the secured vestibule, that gets us right around close to where we need to be if we take those items off. But I would like to ask them if there's any play in some of these, if we could get that down a little. We do have 1.5 million in the capital reserve, we could ask to use some of that, but we need to get permission from the public. I'm not really sure, if that's a way we wanna go. We could use some of that 1.5 million and then refund it later. So, my thought is for the board to consider kind of where it makes sense. Now, we could, I wouldn't say we don't wanna eliminate the high school office suite relocation and that vestibule forever, but we would look for another way to do that in the near future. And the front work on the next page we had, that work on that front columns and, some of that repair work, that needs to be done. We could, realistically, again, Karen McGregor's not here, but something I do wanna talk to her about is, since some of this kinda last information came in, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to her, but now that's 72,000, that's something that we may be able to take out of the repair reserves to put that in order. So, we do have some options. We do have a fair amount of money in our repair reserves and our capital reserves if we do have any roof issues in the time being. The other thing I wanted to show you was, I did give you those two other handouts. One was an email from Janine Caruso that shows us, so when you look at the wording of our, some of how we needed to, fund in that last proposition, the 2018 portion, it said the maximum bonding amount is 18.8 million. So, because there was some use of, funds on hand, that was kind of, I think, where we kind of were off in our number a little bit, is the wording of that proposition. So that's how we get down to that 4.1 million. So, I still think it's a fair amount, and we can do a lot of the work that we talked about. There could be other proposals, so I think that's something that, to think about and discuss as a board, either now or at the next meeting. If you propose eliminating something else off of that list, certainly we could talk about that. The other, piece is on the, other, financial document you have is the debt service expenditures. And so this is how our debt is falling off for the projects. And last time we talked about the importance of having projects, capital projects that are going on regularly. And, I know that sometimes it seems concerning, like, well, why would we always be borrowing money? But we talked about that cash flow and the impact that it has, and Karen can really speak to more of the details on that, but of how we, are able to fund and collect, taxes. So, when you look at, we only have one project that's going to fall off, and it was a very small project, that was the track, that was referenced to earlier. So if you look at that, we're paying principal $40,000 a year, $45,000 a year, in 2027, and then that shows you the interest that we're paying. So as that falls off, then we're into this project right now that we just finished. And that debt won't completely fall off till 2036. So one of the things to consider is that so each year when we pay that, so if you look at next year, 2023, on this capital project, the second column, we're gonna pay $870,000 in principal, and then we have that interest, that we'll be paying. We get the 80% back then the next year, right? So then that's cash coming, that 80% comes back to us, cash coming in. so we've paid the 20%.
We pay 20%, get 80%
Right.
back.
Right, we're getting 80% back, but we've gotta now pay the 885,000, but, so you see what that does with our cash flow, and it keeps our, so some of that, just so you understand that, really the next significant debt that's falling off is until 2036. We're not going to have the ability to do a significant project of, say, 20 million like we're doing now for a while, because of our enrollment, because of how the debt's falling off. And if you would like, Karen can give at some point more information on how the debt falls off. Our financial advisor is working some numbers. She said that we could probably work on, in the next few years, having, a smaller project, 4 or 5 million. So that would cover the roofs, for example. And if you have a $5 million project, that 20% is about $1 million. And we could go back and ask the public to use, so if we build up our capital reserve, or we increase funding to capital reserves regularly, then we can go back to the public and ask to utilize that, so now there's no impact to the taxpayer. We've already collected that and we've got that in reserve, so now we can use that for our 20% without impact to the taxpayer. Right, so there are some options.
And there's also some 5-year planning on construction and upkeep of the building and things
Right,
that are happening,
right.
so that we know.
Well,
where we're
that
headed
will
in the future.
occur next year, so next year will be the facilities, assessment. The other thing that, Mrs. McGregor and I are doing right now, tomorrow, is my all-day session, virtual, and then in January, we'll be in, person, is we are working, we're in a workshop where we're gonna actively be completing our 5-year long-range planning. So I think that's really, it's very timely right now because we have this significant debt that we're going to be paying, really looking at our 5-year planning, looking for our budgeting purposes. We're also gonna be in contract negotiations starting February, March. So that will be able to better inform us in terms of the next 5 years and really what our plan is. There's been some more release of kind of future looking at state aid and funding, and we're gonna see after this ARP money falls off, there looks to be like there could be some shortfall, and over them probably, I think, a year or 2 or 3 from now. So it's something that we wanna start planning for.
Julie, can you just touch quickly on the fact that why we can't just do the roofs? Because you mentioned that during our finance committee meeting, and I know that was mentioned.
Well, it's something that I would like to speak to the school attorney about. There's a few, it's our advisor, the interpretation of the proposition does not, it would be a very broad interpretation to include the roofs in that. Because the proposition, I don't have it in front of me, but it's worded similar to an addition and improvements in the school building. I think, again, it would be a broad interpretation for the roof piece. Again, I think I'd have to take a look at it. We could possibly, but it's a broad interpretation.
Okay.
Our advisor is
The way that it was
interpreting,
written.
our financial advisor is interpreting the way it's written. It's supposed to be in the original scope of work that was proposed. Our advisor felt like that was a stretch. Of course, our architect thinks it's okay, but,
Okay.
so I would like to talk to Pat Fitzgerald, our, school attorney that we work with on the capital project, and look at what his interpretation is. So I should have that for the discussion, and I'll let you know for the November meeting, so that we'll be fully informed all around, because if we could consider the roofing, I think that's, something, but we kinda have discussed that already, and, I think we thought that would be an appropriate smaller project, possibly.
All right, moving on to personnel. If no objection, I would like to combine the 6 items. Entertain a motion to approve the following personnel items. Tanya Lett's resignation as cleaner, appointment of Tanya Lutz as cafeteria worker, appointment of Tanya Lutz as a substitute cleaner, appointment of Rachel Armstrong as a substitute teacher, appointment of Leslie, oh boy, Ladabouche as a substitute teacher, and appointment of Peter Dunnigan as volunteer girls basketball coach. It's your turn.
So moved.
Second.
I lost track.
All those in favor? Motion passes 3-0. Any discussion? Everybody's good with all that? Alright. Entertain a motion to approve the corrected tax bill in the amount of $5,746.30 issued to the Valance family.
So moved.
Like, that should be
Hold on. I'm gonna butcher everyone's name tonight, I apologize.
It was a spelling error.
No, it's fine. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes 3-0. Alright, and now we're gonna moving some money, so. Entertain a motion to fund the following reserves with funds in excess of the allowable 4% carryover from the 2021-2022 school year. Workers' compensation reserve, $93,000. Reserve of the teacher's retirement, $20,000. Capital reserve, $300,000. And repair reserve, $300,000.
Second.
All those in favor? Any discussion? Motion passes 3-0. And the baseball merger. Entertain a motion to approve renew the sports merger for the baseball between Salem Central School and Cambridge Central School for the 2022-2023 school year for varsity and JV levels.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Any discussion? Motion passes 3-0. Alright, entertain a motion to approve the reserve analysis report.
So moved.
I lost track. Second.
All those in favor? Any discussion? Motion passes.
I've got the odd numbers, you got the equals.
Got it.
If no objection, I would like to combine the next two items. Entertain a motion to approve the following building use requests. The PTA, use of the cafeteria once a month for PTA meeting is flexible. Insurance is on file. And youth basketball every Saturday and one evening a week, 11/26/22 through February 11/23.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Any discussion? Motion passes 3-0. Alright. Entertain a motion to approve the extracurricular fund as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Any discussion? Motion passes 3-0. Alright. Entertain a motion to approve girls wrestling as an interscholastic athletic sport to begin in the 2022-2023 New York State, lots of initials, winter sports season.
So,
Second.
All those in favor? Any discussion? Motion passes 3-0. No objection, I'd like to combine the next four items. Entertain a motion to approve the following volunteer appointments. Frank Fraunhofer, girls wrestling coach. Trevor LeBlanc, volunteer wrestling coach. Chris Fraunhofer, girls wrestling volunteer coach. And Sherman Trinkle, girls wrestling volunteer coach.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion passes 3-0.
Looks like we said no to a volunteer.
Not gonna say no to a volunteer for sure. Alright, under dates to remember, so we have parent-teacher conferences coming up, October 27th, November 2nd, and November 8th. These are half-days for elementary only. The FFA convention, October 24th through the 29th. The PTA Fall Festival is being canceled.
Yes.
All County Jazz and Chorus, November 4th and 5th. And the Emergency Early Release Day, November 10th. What time is that released, do you know? 2:10. Okay, so it's not real early. And Veterans Day, November 11th, no school. Any other dates anybody's got? Oh, there's a few more on the back. National Honor Society induction ceremony is on November 16th. Is that earlier than
Yeah,
our
is it
6
the
p.m.
same
meeting?
time as our board meeting? Or do we need to move our board
Uh,
meeting?
I think
usually at one.
my thought is
I
that
was
they're
told it
going
was
back.
not going to be at one when they had their meeting last night,
Oh.
so that's why I'm asking.
Then it'll be changed. It'll have to be changed.
Well, we're gonna have to, they might have, we're gonna have to.
So that's a
I
question.
don't know that for sure, but that's what
Well,
Josh
I don't know that.
told me when he came home from the meeting, so I just wanted to confirm.
All right, we'll
do
straighten
some
that out, I'll get back to you.
Fact finding.
I'll get back to you on that.
Alright. Regular board meeting will be November 16th. The Northeast Music Festival, November 17th through the 20th. Thanksgiving recess, November 23rd through the 25th. And the NISBA convention is October 27th through the 29th. You and Ann will be-
Yes, next week. I was traveling. You know, one of the things just we'll have to talk about before we adjourn is, I forgot to include the most exciting part is that our audit is in. We got it yesterday and, so we will need to have a special meeting next week. So is that, do we wanna put that in our dates to remember now
Monday, I think,
or
was the best so far. Monday works, but
Monday works?
What time do you
Five
start?
PM or 6? Can everybody make it for 5?
The auditor
Get
can
it.
do either.
I can do that.
I can do that. Make it work.
We wanna be
Okay. All right. Let's do 5 o'clock on Monday and we'll have the auditor come. And if you, we will need to have a brief executive with that, but
Would I
No.
no.
No, okay.
You don't have to do the special meetings.
You don't
Just
have
the once
to.
a month meetings.
If you're interested in hearing about the audit
Extras.
report, about all the finances of the district, certainly bring some coffee. All
Thank you.
right.
Opportunity for the public to be heard. Mr. Perry.
I had a visit not long ago with Rick McGuire, who was the former head track coach at University of Missouri. And he commented on how good the track looked, the one that their family donated for. But he felt that the lines should be renewed so that it looks as good as the track actually is and so forth, so all the lines on it should be done over.
Refreshed.
Yeah.
I know we are keeping an eye too, I think there's
funds to.
There
Right,
should be
right,
funds for that.
resurfacing,
There were funds
right.
put away to maintain that
Yes.
at the time the track went in.
right,
We talked
right.
about that a little bit, yeah.
And we have our eye on that, we think the resurfacing will be coming up in the near future as well, so we'll coordinate that, but we'll take a look on what that takes to refresh the lines, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Your turn, sir.
Don Davis, district residents, as you probably gathered from past meetings, I have no problem speaking out when I disagree. In contrast to the first speaker, I'm also willing to stand up and say when I do agree. Not with the speaker. He does bring up some valid social points. Those that don't understand the bid process and would accuse you of having a project overbid for money left over would also be very upset if you came back to them and said, look, we're a few million short, could you give us a little more? But that is a valid opinion that needs to be addressed. Do I love the idea of the archways being enclosed? No, but I do understand the necessity of it. And as long as you approach it in an aesthetic way concurrent with the building, and aesthetics you can argue all day, I think it is truly the right thing to do. And the community needs to understand why you're doing it. Some people you won't be able to convince, but that's just the way it is. And the rest of the construction flows with that. If you didn't close the archway, you don't have to do the other stuff either. But honestly, given the parameters, the archway does need to be addressed. You'll also notice that you haven't seen the gentleman at previous meetings, and the information has been available. But that's most of your community, which is why communications with your community needs to be addressed as well. So I think, honestly, everything in the first category probably needs to be done. I think it's a good idea that the school get in the habit of doing a construction project on a regular basis. That's what we generally do with our own houses. It's been brought up before, and everybody here has acknowledged that this project has been so complicated because it's been basically 20 years since anything's been addressed. And that's a valid point to the community. Look, we got behind, we had to do some catch up, and now we want to have a regular program so we don't have to come back to you for large projects. So as I said, I have no problem speaking out when I disagree, and I have no problem speaking up when I think you're doing the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. All right, entertain a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose, discussions involving proposed pending or current litigation, discussion of discipline, supervision, or removal of particular persons.
So moved.
All those in favor? Motion passes 3-0.
You anticipate action when you come back?
We do not anticipate any action.
Thank you, everyone.